Welcome to Recently Logged, where this week in the studio we have no lock on the door. There never was any lock on the door. Welcome.
Hello.
Back to our Back to School series.
I was really confused. I thought you were like having a stroke there for a second. I'm like, what? But yeah, we're doing.
Neither of us are back to school, but we're
we are both now graduated and not going back to school, but we're doing a back to school series nonetheless.
So yeah, we talked about 2 weeks ago. We talked about the first Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie, the live action one.
Yes,
this week,
indeed, we did.
We're doing the sequel.
The sequel to Diary of a Wimpy Kid. It's called Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Rodrick Rules.
Which he does.
As the name would imply, Rodrick does rule. In two ways, really. If you think about it, Micah, it's pretty clever. But anyway, let's get into what the people need to know about the film.
I thought you were going to introduce us.
Oh, wait, really? Oh, okay.
It's usually your thing.
Well, I guess before we get into what people need to know about the film, my name is Robbie.
And I'm Micah.
And together, we're Recently Logged.
We talk about movies.
We talk about the movies.
The movies. All right, now
let's get into what we need to know.
All right, so again, we're talking about Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Rodrick Rules, which is a 2011 movie, rated PG. It's an hour and 39 minutes. Its little IMDb description is, back in middle school after summer vacation, Greg Heffley and his older brother Rodrick must deal with their parents' misguided attempts to have them bond. Its cast features Zachary Gordon as Greg Heffley, Devin Bostick as Rodrick Heffley,
yes,
Robert Capron as Rowley Jefferson,
yeah, there you go,
Rachel Harris, Steve Zahn, Connor Fielding, Owen Fielding. Oh wow, that's the two Mannies played by brother.
I did not realize that there were two different Mannies.
Peyton List makes an appearance.
Yes, she does.
Oh man, he aged like fine wine. What the heck?
Karan Barar.
Karan Barar.
He really did. That's kind of crazy.
What the heck? Directed by David Bowers. Written by, again, Gabe
Sachs.
I always do that wrong.
Yeah.
Dyslexia. Sorry, Sachs. Anybody named Sachs? It's a pretty common last name.
Right.
Jeff Judah, based on a book by Jeff Kinney.
You know, it's kind of odd that this isn't the same director as the first one. It feels very similar to me. I don't know why. Tonally, it's very similar to the first movie.
That's interesting. Yeah,
I would just expect it to be the same director.
Which is interesting, too, because this director did Flushed Away, a movie I'm not a very big fan of, Astro Boy, a movie I'm not a very big fan of, and Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Long Haul, which nobody's a fan of.
Which nobody likes. Well, at least he did this.
At least he did.
If I got to work with Devin Bostick at some point in my directorial career, when he was at the peak of his game, I would be happy.
Yeah, that's kind of funny that this would be the peak of his game.
Is it? I don't know.
I mean, probably.
Yeah, I would assume so, this trilogy.
I mean, Okja, he's pretty good in that, but
he is good in Okja.
Not in it much.
But anyway, now that you guys know all about Rodrick Rules, we can actually talk about what we thought of the movie.
Yeah, let's do that. So, Robbie, tell us, being me and the audience, the listeners, the people.
We're acknowledging the audience?
Yeah, we're acknowledging them. They're there. They're listening.
I hope you feel acknowledged.
Tell them what you think of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Rodrick Rules.
Rodrick Rules. I believe I mentioned in the first episode we did in this trilogy of episodes, or maybe quadrilogy. I don't know if we're going to do the last one or not.
It's not a quadrilogy. The Long Haul is not part of the trilogy. It's a completely different cast.
But I mentioned in the first episode we did on Diary of a Wimpy Kid that I liked Rodrick Rules better than the first one, and I think I'll stand by that on a second viewing. It's got more Devin Bostic, which we keep joking about him, but he really is like giving a great performance in the first one and in this one. Like, there's so many like great subtleties in his performance, and it always feels like I don't know. He's such a delicious character, like to write it for a movie, because he's always so like self-confident until like the tiniest thing goes wrong.
Right.
I don't know.
Where do you think Greg gets it from?
I was about to say, it's really funny to just like watch his plans crumble every like 5 minutes in this movie. But yeah, no, I love Devin Bostic's performance. I love the whole cast, really. We mentioned how great the cast was in the first one. It's mostly the same cast in this one.
Yeah.
Plus a Peyton List.
Well, she's barely in it too.
She's very young in this too.
which again is funny that we have two of the
Disney Channel
Jesse
oh
alumni.
Yeah, specifically Jesse.
Yeah, specifically like Jesse in this show. I mean, in this movie.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the performances are all great. I think this honestly is a bit funnier than the first one.
I think the bits are like honestly always better.
We mentioned how in the first one you get a lot of like, as it shifts its character dynamics, you get a lot of different comedic bits as their dynamics change and everything. This one is just loaded with like, it's just like filled to the brim with iconic bits. I don't know why.
I was about to say, like, the dynamics kind of still change, but like
it's not as reliant on that.
Yeah, it's not really
it's more of a buddy comedy than anything in this one.
Which allows it to kind of double down on the kind of bits that this movie is doing.
Exactly, yeah. I was about to say, it's a lot more carefree than the first one, I think, because it's not setting up as much, and it's really just focused on having fun with Rodrick and Greg.
Yeah, I was about to say, you already know Rodrick and Greg, so in this movie you just get to see more of them.
Right. But yeah, no, I think it's really great. I think it's really funny. I think it's pretty brilliantly written from a comedy perspective. It's one of my favorite comedies now, I think, especially when it comes to like PG comedies, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a load of fun. It looks great. The cinematography and lighting are both like unreasonably good.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Which, I mean, we mentioned that for the first movie too. Like, it's really well shot for some reason.
I think this movie looks better though.
Oh,
like,
it does.
This movie has so many like sharp contrasts, really cool uses of color. Great, like, I don't know. It just looks good.
Yeah, it's a good looking movie. It's really fun. It's really funny. It flies by like in its runtime, which is always something I admire, because, you know, even though it does fly by, it still feels like I get a substantial amount of laughs and, you know, whatever out of this, whatever I'm looking for from it. But yeah, I give it a 4.5 out of 5. Really enjoyed it.
Wow, now you've literally said everything there is to say. So thank you for listening to Recently Logged. We'll be back next week.
Catch you next week.
Yeah, I don't know. I concur. Like, what am I supposed to say after that? He just went for like 5 minutes straight saying everything about the movie.
That sums up my thoughts on it pretty well, I think.
Couldn't be like, oh yeah, I like it. It's got some good elements. Yeah, good movie.
Just a ditto, Micah.
Ditto, mostly. I really like it.
Any other things you want to shout out about it?
I think like 90% of any given bit in this movie is like actually just better than the first movie's bits. This thing is really, really funny. The cast honestly even feels more comfortable doing what they're doing.
Oh yeah, no, they feel everyone in the cast feels a lot more like on board for what's happening.
Every moment that like you could have like a kind of meh joke, they like recover it really well and do something really funny with it. Yeah, like there are just so many smart things going on in this movie. I don't understand why so many people like dislike it. Yeah, like, I genuinely don't.
It's so wild to me because the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, that was so funny. It's so great. I only gave it a 4 out of 5 the first time I saw it, which is still a very positive score. Yeah. And I went to Letterboxd and I saw that like at least 3 people I followed just gave it like a 1 or something. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, like I know so many people who just like are like, man, that's trash. And I'm like, what? like I've seen a lot of trash comedies.
I've seen a lot of trash kids comedies.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of trash kids.
They're very common.
Extremely common. This is far from that. I mean, come on. Like the craft alone of like the filmmaking is really really
Right.
good.
Not to mention you get so many like really just hilarious bits in this. I don't understand
I don't know.
why. Like you get like the foot, you get the Shirag
I was about to say
being invisible
Shirag
one.
invisible.
There's just so much good stuff. Like
Yeah.
scene
The
to scene.
door.
Yeah, the door lock. Like that's iconic.
But yeah, I
know.
also gave it a 4.5. I very much loved it this time around. Like I ended
Good.
with that feeling that only really happens after comedies I love, where I just like, because I laughed out loud so much you actually like feel it in your chest, and that's how I finished this movie both
Nice.
times. So
That's
like,
a sign of a good comedy.
I'm like, what else is there in a comedy? So yeah, let's deep dive into it a bit more.
Deep
Rodrick.
dive.
Do you have any questions, oh ye giver of all of your opinion?
Yeah, sure. What did you think of how this continues the franchise? Like, because we get a little less Rowley, we get a little more Rodrick, and that's pretty much the biggest difference in this one. Because, like, obviously Greg's relationship with Rowley is the focus of the first movie, and his relationship with Rodrick is the focus of this one.
So I really like it. I think, I mean, a lot of people have kind of called like I don't know, actually I saw a lot of people complaining about the fact with this series in general that Greg again is just terrible to watch, and I very much disagree, and I don't know if that speaks badly to me or something.
Right? Yeah, like, how does that reflect on us?
But he's so much fun to watch be a terrible person.
Right?
And what's interesting about this one too is he's honestly not as terrible. He's still pretty bad.
Yeah, you know, he's still pretty terrible.
But it's cool to watch him, like, again, kind of grow with his brother in a way where they're kind of still doing terrible things together. But like to just see him get a more solid feeling relationship.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't ever really fight with Rowley in this. Again, Rowley's in it less.
Yeah.
And the relationship with the brother goes well. So it feels nice to see Greg progress into having like two semi-okay seeming relationships.
I was about to say, I don't know how like wholesome Greg is going to be in the third movie, but he's gotten a little more wholesome from the first one to the second one.
Again, still like the big point in this ends up being that Greg does something embarrassing to sacrifice for somebody else.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it comes off as very much like rehashing the same plot, as the emotional core and the sacrifice is something completely different.
I was about to say, dang, I didn't even think about the fact that that's the same thing that happened in the first one. You're right. But no, it's rooted in something completely different in this one.
Yeah, so it doesn't really come off as like rehashy, so like it works again because, he's not like cured from his character flaws. He still has the same character flaws, just slightly different after the lessons he learned in the first movie. And I think as a movie kind of exploring the quote unquote world, it does a really good job of building off of like a lot of the world building. Because again, like we talked about it in the last episode we did on these, that like the first half of the movie, if not more, is mostly just like world building and like setting stuff up in funny ways, but like setting stuff up.
I was about to say, I still love the first movie.
Building the world of middle school. This one has the world of middle school, and it really, really feels like comfortable and expanding, and not really spending a lot of time being like, here is middle school. Here are all the dynamics of middle school.
I find it really funny that almost all of the middle school scenes are just the Shirag being invisible joke.
Right? It's either like him like thirsting over Peyton List or Shirag being an absolute legend.
Exactly. Those are the two options for being at school in this movie.
Which is good. That's
good.
We did not need a movie to focus on school as much as the last one did. That would have, again, felt very rehashy. Instead, actually, the house ends up being our main set piece for this one.
Right.
Which, again, is very cool for what they use it for.
For sure, yeah.
But yeah, what do you think of its expansion?
I just wanted to mention really how well it handles Rowley's character in this. Like,
Yeah.
Rowley is still such like a fun and memorable part of the movie without being like too big of a part of it.
Yeah, he still seems like he would be, like he still very much feels like, oh yeah, that's Greg's best friend. But in this particular movie, you know, Greg is grounded for 90% of it. So
No, I was about to say, I don't know how much of this plot is like from the book. Again, we haven't read the book series at all.
We should have like picked them up somewhere. Go to our local Scholastica book fair.
You know, it's funny. I actually donated to a book charity drive thing the other day when I was checking out at Second and Charles, and I picked out Dog Days for the book drive. I'm like, some kid is going to get Dog Days.
We should have gotten the first 3 books for research purposes.
Right? Yeah. But yeah, so I appreciate how Rowley is incorporated in this movie, and I don't know. There's something very sweet about like a movie focused on 2 brothers, like just working stuff out. I think it's a really sweet core for this movie.
Two brothers, Robbie. Just working stuff out.
We got to the end of this movie. I'm like, it's just like Ambulance for real. But yeah, no, I don't know. As a sequel, I think it works really well. As I said, it builds on the cinematic look and language of the first movie in a really nice way. I think it looks better. I don't know that it's like cinematography itself is better than the first one. I actually might argue this visual storytelling in the first one is a bit stronger. But this one is a lot more comedy leaning than the first one is.
I don't know. I think this one's a lot more engaging to watch.
It is more engaging
on a visual level.
So maybe I'm wrong.
like the party scene, like when they do the photo shoot for the party scene. That's so good. It's such a cool choice,
right? No, I was about to say there's a lot of really cool stylistic choices here. There's a lot more like animated segments in this one too, which I don't think always work. I feel like they are a little choppy sometimes, but like for the most part, I'm glad that they're there.
Yeah, it's interesting because in the first movie, a lot of their cutaway bits, a la Family Guy, were much more like all live action, whereas these are mostly animated.
Yeah, there's only like 2 live action cutaways in this, which I think you get the family band and the family who actually loves me one. I think those are the only 2 that I can think of, but they're both really funny.
They are funny, yeah. But no, yeah, I think the one thing you could probably say for that stuff is that I think like the only complaints I could probably think of for this movie in general is that the structure is a little bit like not even bad.
I wouldn't say it's bad.
It is. What is the word I'm thinking of? Like,
it's odd,
like
for
coarse.
Sure. Yeah,
like kind of stiff. A stiff
for sure. A
structure.
Little blocky, maybe.
Like a lot of the transitions, even from like segment to segment, are done through an animated thing.
Yeah,
and you're just kind of like doing the next thing after that.
Yeah, that's true. The story doesn't feel quite as natural as the first one does.
The first one does a really good job. Again, we joked about it being like the PTA kids movie because it does a really good job of just like flowing its dynamics throughout the entire movie.
No, the story feels like, very natural in its progression, which isn't the case.
I was about to say this one feels very much like here is this thing, then there is this thing, then there is this thing, then there is this thing. But I don't think that doesn't work in this movie, you know?
No, it's not that it doesn't work at all. It's just not as strong as it potentially could be. But I mean, for a lot of comedy-centric films, you're usually just hopping from bit to bit anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like the closest thing you could compare this to, I would say, is even something like Mean Girls compared to the first
I actually thought
Wimpy Kid.
I actually thought about Mean Girls while we were watching this. I'm like, this is kind of a similar comedy.
No, it's got a similar structure to Mean Girls. And like compare Mean Girls to the first Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and they're just drastically different in structure and everything. And even the way they approach comedy, I think, is more similar in this movie than it is in the first one.
For sure, yeah. I still love how Mean Girls is just like set up and then like 45 to 50 minutes of shenanigans and then the end.
Right, like
that's good.
The middle of the movie is just whatever.
Just doing whatever. That's what's so beautiful about it.
But do you have a favorite scene or sequence?
That's tough for this one.
That is.
There's so many good ones.
Yeah, I was about to say this one's tough in a different way because there are very clear defined scenes and sequences in this one, unlike the last one. but there are so many good ones.
I really, really like that one section of the movie right after the party when Rowley comes over for the sleepover and everything. That whole section, like including the door lock. Can I include that like 20-minute stretch?
I don't know. Like I think that's a pretty concise like sequence. Like the post party rally.
I was about to say post party rally and the door shenanigans. I think that's it's so funny.
Oh no, I really love that. I'm trying to think of, because I was gonna say probably something around the door. I think that's probably my favorite
I was
bit.
about to say that's like one of the best bits in this entire movie.
But honestly, I really love the party. I love
the party is
scene.
really fun. Yeah,
I really love the end show stuff.
Yeah, for sure. The magic show.
The magic show and Rodrick's show. That stuff is really fun.
Yeah,
and honestly, I think its emotional core works pretty well. Like,
right?
I'm not like crying, but I feel something from it, you know?
Crying in the club at Rodrick Rules.
And then I guess, like my only other like honorable mention for like that I could think of for like my top favorites, would honestly be all the stuff at the retirement home.
I'm a little torn on the retirement home.
I like the retirement home.
I think it's really funny, but at the same time, like, I don't know how necessary it is, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of utilized in the story is kind of supposed to be like, oh, here's Greg at his lowest low.
Yeah, no, I get that.
And then Peyton List helps him out, gives him a light in the darkness.
No, and that's it's a sweet scene and everything. I don't know, it's just, if there was anything that like you could potentially cut from the movie, that would be it. But I mean, obviously, you wouldn't get the payoff of Peyton List being in the movie at all.
I'm not the peeping Tom.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I take it all back. That sequence is worth it. For the bathroom stall, like chase when he fakes out. That is one of the funniest moments in this entire movie.
I love that.
You need to go watch this movie.
I love that bit. So yeah, I don't know. I thought it was overall a pretty fun sequence.
Okay, maybe you're right.
But yeah,
no, I mean, there's a lot of really, really funny bits in that part. I don't know. I always get like this weird feeling that the movie's kind of slowing down for it.
No, I would agree that the pacing feels like it slows down a little bit. And like obviously that's a little bit on purpose.
Yeah, no, it is.
But you can definitely kind of feel like a little bit of the comedic momentum kind of like...
No, it loses some of its energy there, for sure.
But it picks it up pretty darn fast once we get back.
Dude, I would like to give a shout out to whenever Rowley is wearing his little mustache in this movie.
The
it's
Rowley
so
mustache.
Funny. Dude, when he answers the football phone with the mustache on. That's comedy. That's film to me.
No, it's really funny. We were talking about the cinematography of the movie. There were 2 points in the movie in which... the shots paralleled movie. One of them, I posted it on Twitter if you follow me on Twitter. It was the shot with Brad Pitt and the knife leaning down from Inglourious Basterds. It's a very well-known shot. But there's a shot during the play
oh my goodness.
Where the dove dies.
I was about to say the dove falls down dead and Greg and Rowley are just looking down at it.
And the shot literally is like literally they're in the same height positions, just swapped.
It's so funny.
Like it's literally the same shot. And I love it. And then the shot Robbie found too.
Oh my goodness, dude. This movie, it's so well shot for what it looks like, so good.
Yeah, like
you could frame any still from this movie.
Dude, I would frame some stills from this. Dude, he's got his mustache and his top hat, and like the face Rowley's making in that shot versus the face Craig's making.
I don't know where they found the kid who plays Rowley, but his facial expressions are so good in both of the movies.
He's always fantastic,
right? He's such a good actor. I don't know I don't know how they're doing it.
Dude. So what do you think of watching Greg's character in general in this movie? I know we kind of touched on it briefly.
I think, if anything, his character doesn't feel quite as cohesive as the first movie. But I mean, obviously, I don't know if I would say less cohesive.
I was about to say
but
this movie kind of plays as a buddy comedy.
Yeah, it doesn't feel as focused on Greg, like Greg's character and his progression and getting over his like very blatant wrongness, you know?
Yeah, because like the entire core of the first one is Greg is a completely disillusioned, terrible person who thinks he's king of the world.
Exactly, yeah.
But the point of this one is, you know, like literally like the emotional core is Greg and Rodrick like being brothers.
Yeah. So it's a bit different. It doesn't feel as focused on Greg, but what is there feels very real to his character. I think he's still very well written in this one.
To kind of continue that question, to not be so rehashy, what do you think of like Rodrick and Greg's dynamic in this movie?
I think it works really well, personally. I don't know, especially for the comedy stuff that they do. I think it's really great. But if we're talking like emotional screenwriting, you know, I don't know. I also think I still think it's pretty good from that perspective too. Like, I don't know. The days of fighting with my siblings are kind of in my past, I hope. So it's been like a while since I've experienced that. And obviously the fighting in this movie is to a rather extreme degree.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think what this movie does get right, especially, is like the feeling of hanging out with an older sibling.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, oh, like one of your siblings finally acknowledges you as like a cool person rather than just like someone they're forced to hang out with all the time.
Yeah, like in so much of like,
and that's the really one of the big things that gets me in this movie. I'm like,
what makes it kind of nice, like as a dynamic to watch progress as you go from like them being like comedically terrible to each other, to like them like during like the mall stuff and everything. Like, they're genuinely like really, really fun to watch.
Exactly.
And they like, and again, you really do feel kind of like that older sibling acknowledging that like the younger sibling is like a person,
just an actual person.
And like that really plays into like the emotional core of like that is the emotional core essentially, but like that is what allows it. Those times of them just like hanging out is what allows it to be emotional at the end. Again, the door bit, we joke about the door bit, but the door bit is like the big
turning point of the movie, because now they finally have something to unite with, or I guess against.
Yeah, exactly. Like they finally have like the door.
It's the shared trauma bringing people closer.
At least they have the door.
Exactly.
But no, like even the party scene and like I don't know, like they're just so much fun to watch as brothers.
It's a very sweet movie, I think, at the end of the day.
Yeah, which is, you know, I think the first one is definitely less sweet than this one, whereas this one is a lot more pleasant overall. Like you said, it's a lot more relaxed. It's not doing as much setup.
I was about to say, it feels a lot lower stakes than the first one,
and it just makes like it allows its comedy to shine a lot more. Like take something like Mean Girls, since, you know, we mentioned it earlier, and it's a pretty well-known comedy. I think one of my least favorite things about Mean Girls is I don't think its emotional core is worked in that naturally by the very, very end. Again,
by the end, okay.
I love the movie, and I think it works, but like I think the end, they take it a little bit more extreme than the movie needed. Like, it just feels more unsatisfying than I'd like it to be.
I could see that. I disagree, but I could see that for sure.
No. This is my opinions. But I'm saying,
but I hold a higher view of Mean Girls than most people.
Take something like Mean Girls, and it spends a lot of its time being very not self-serious, because obviously it thinks it's all a joke.
Yeah.
But like a lot more serious in tone.
It treats its emotional stakes very seriously when it doesn't treat its jokes very seriously.
Yeah, exactly. It treats its emotional stakes very seriously.
Yes.
Because Tina Fey knew that they were a serious talking point.
Thank you, Tina Fey.
Thank you, Tina Fey. And I don't know. I think this movie is all the better for the fact that like it just kind of relaxes into its emotional themes.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't really have anything to comment on that, but yeah, I think I agree with that. Any other
squeaky chair?
You got the one that creaks, Micah. But are there any other big questions you want to tackle?
I don't know. I asked like the last two questions. Are there any other big questions you want to tackle?
We mentioned favorite scene or sequence, but do you have like a favorite running bit or joke or anything like that?
Honestly, one of my favorite jokes that doesn't really like that you can't really say is like a scene or sequence.
Yeah,
again, they don't spend much time at school.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much anything with Shirag.
Oh my gosh,
specifically the Shirag.
So funny in this.
But I mean, I always loved the actor in Jesse.
Oh yeah.
And in Hubie Halloween.
Yeah, I was about to say he's a really funny performer. I every time I see him pop up in something, I'm like, oh, what a pleasant surprise.
Which isn't Peyton List also in Hubie Halloween?
I believe Peyton List is in it. Yeah,
that's so weird. But he like as Shirag, he's just such a funny character to play off of like Greg's delusions. Like he's always there like to antagonize him, but like so not funny. In like not in a mean way.
Exactly. Yeah. No. He's one of the best characters. I hope he's in the third movie too.
His line deliveries are like always good. His bits are always
it's
funny.
Non-stop, man. And then, I don't know what the writers were on.
We know who you are. But then they take it to the extreme with the Shirag invisible when he comes back from India.
Dude, it's so good. But yeah, no, that's a good pick for sure.
Like the way they trip up Greg too, the hand falling.
That's such a good sequence. Unironic.
But what about you? Do you have a favorite bit outside of that one?
I think if I wasn't gonna pick like one of the big ones,
yeah,
like
one of the big
like the door lock, like that's obviously I think the best one in the movie because you get so many great like moments in that.
Yeah, and it also ties directly into the emotional core of the story.
If I were to pick just like a one-off really funny bit, it's either gonna be like the foot, which is a really, really funny, like a film within the film. It's so funny.
The Foot and Mant double feature.
Foot and Mant double feature. I would watch that. But I don't know. There's just something about it. It's such a fun and like they didn't have to include it, but they did. It's so funny.
Yeah. Again, I think, I don't think the first movie could include a bit like that.
No,
with the
it would
way
feel kind of out of place.
Well, with the way it delivers it, because like this is not like important really.
No,
you could cut the foot. You could cut Rowley sleeping over.
You get the sleepover with Rowley, which is really, really funny and has so many good bits in it, but like it's really not necessary.
But like it doesn't feel especially unnecessary in the movie. Like you're not like, oh great, here's another superfluous.
It doesn't feel like the movie's wasting your time.
Yeah,
it's still giving you so much to enjoy.
This is so much more of like a hangout movie.
Yeah.
And this is one of like the most fun hangout things.
Right.
Like when the dad's like, hey Rowley, what's new?
What's new? Oh my gosh.
He just dies.
That's one of the funniest moments in this movie. I keep saying that. You'll bring up like one moment, I'll be like, that's one of the funniest moments.
Because no, like genuinely, I think this movie is hilarious, and I think that's like the biggest praise I can give it, because like it's not doing anything crazy or anything like that. I mean, it looks really good, and I think it's edited really well.
The editing is really good.
But like, so is the first movie. I think what this movie really has more than anything is it just feels like a sweet, really funny throughout movie.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And dude, like the ending with okay, there we go. There's my second complaint. Other than the structure being a little blocky.
Yeah.
My second complaint is that they think Exploding Diapers is a bad song.
Dude,
that song
great
rocks.
Song. It genuinely
I would listen to that.
It has two separate great guitar solos. It's got a great chorus, great verse. It's a good
people
song.
can sing along with it really easily. Like, come on. Like, they make fun of the song in the movie, but like, I don't know. I thought it was good. I would go watch that.
Dude, okay, I just remembered another really good bit. Remember in the magic show after the end of it when after the saw table collapses and it cuts to like the 8-year-old and he's like, that should have been me.
Scotty, Rebby.
Scotty, exactly.
Rebby and my assistant, Scotty. Greg.
I thought Scotty wasn't gonna come back the first time I watched this, and then they'd have like this 3-second shot of him like, that should have been me.
Oh, another very good bit derived from the ending of this is when oh gosh, why did I just lose her name? Because all I could think of is Holly Hills. Mean Girl from the first one.
The girl with the braids?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I don't remember her name.
But when she's doing her
oh
song.
Oh my goodness, I almost forgot.
It cuts to all the different family member reactions. And like, it shows like Greg and he's like, what the heck?
Right.
It shows the dad and he's like, eh. It shows the mom and she's like, oh, this is so sweet. And then it cuts to Rodrick. He's got like a single tear.
Oh my goodness.
And it's amazing. That's one of the funny.
That moment kills me.
Like I said, the entire show is just really good. Yeah,
no, it is. The talent show, definitely one of the better sequences in the whole movie.
But yeah,
yeah.
That like I mean, come on, guys.
Again, I genuinely don't understand why people don't like this one.
Like, and a lot of people I know who gave this really low ratings did not leave reviews. So
yeah,
I cannot tell you their thoughts on it. Like, all I can imagine is they watched it and just were like,
bored or something.
And then we're like, low rating. Like, they gave it no more thought than that, which makes me really sad.
I mean, I do that for a lot of kids movies I don't like. I'll be like, for something like I don't know why I keep comparing. I guess it's kind of a similar era of kids comedies. I keep comparing the first Diary of a Wimpy Kid to Alexander's Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day, because it's
later, but like
it's a similar
vein.
Yeah. But like I didn't give hardly any thought to criticizing that movie. I'm like, it's boring. It's bad.
But I don't know. Like, take something like Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day, and set it next to this movie, and it feels like apples and oranges.
Exactly.
To me.
Yeah. No. I get that. Like, but I'm saying, like, if you viewed this movie in that way, then I could see like not giving it a second thought and just slapping like a 2 on it or something.
But I mean,
and
not even just like comedy. Like, you know, comedy is subjective, but like, this movie looks really good. I think it's shot really well. I think it has great performances.
Right.
I think it has like good editing.
I was about to say, if you're just looking for technical prowess in this movie, it's got a really great like cast that has a very solid direction behind it.
Like, I don't know. I couldn't imagine watching this movie and just like
meh, you know,
blowing it off.
Yeah.
Like, even if I didn't think it worked as well, I feel like I would still be like interested in.
Yeah, I was
talking
about to say,
about
even if I wasn't into this movie, like if I just absolutely was like bored the whole time, I would probably still give it like a 3 or a 3.5 or something, because it's technically sound. It's a good movie.
So if you're listening to this and you're on a platform where you can leave us a comment, or even get at us on Twitter,
tweet at us.
We're just at recently logged.
Yeah.
Tweet at us at recently logged. Why you don't like this movie? Like, genuinely, like, we are curious as two people who apparently blindly love this movie.
We're way too easy on films, Micah. Stop loving movies.
We need harsh criticism. Usually I'm the one bringing the harsher criticism, and I really don't have much criticism of this movie.
Yeah.
Like tell us your thoughts. I mean, this is wild to me.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really fun movie. Go watch it.
Go watch this movie.
If you got Disney Plus, or if you can find it on physical somewhere, go support physical media.
Yeah, definitely.
And go buy it.
In our troubling and these unprecedented
trying
times. Please go support physical media.
Yes,
please.
I wonder how well that statement's going to age. Like someone listening to this 2 years from now. It'll probably age pretty well.
Oh man, what's happening with animated shows right now is depressing. It was depressing like last year because like Netflix was canceling a bunch of shows.
My goodness.
But now we're doing worse than canceling shows. Somehow we went from like getting shows like 90% through pre-production and then canceling them, and that was bad. But now we're like, no, we're gonna make shows disappear.
They don't exist anymore.
For money. Money.
But anyway, that's pretty much all my thoughts on Rodrick Rules.
Yeah, that's pretty much all mine too.
I hope you guys enjoyed the discussion.
It's a very, very funny movie.
Can't recommend it enough, you know?
Dude, the cast, again, amazing.
This is Devin Bostick's magnum opus.
Bostick is
so
amazing. Yeah, I don't know, man. Go watch it. If you thought bad of it the first time, maybe if
give it a second chance.
One thing we can do with this podcast is convince you to maybe watch it again and be a little bit kinder on it in your heart.
A kind soul.
To know that we two brothers, of whom, you know, the movie's dynamic hinges on brothers.
Wow. How relevant.
Loved it.
How topical.
But maybe you can love it too.
But anyway, now that we're through discussing Diary of a Wimpy Kid, it's over. It's old news.
It's old news. I've already forgot about it.
Let's talk about the other stuff we watched this week.
All right, so for those of you new to the podcast or have just, you know, never made it this far before, we do a little segment at the end. We call it the What We Watched segment, in which we talk about what we watched.
Who'd have thought it?
In between the last episodes, just all the movies we've logged. We talk recently logged the movies we've logged.
Goodness. Oh
recently.
My goodness.
We say brief thoughts, tell our ratings. Just a simple little thing.
Yeah.
And this week we are starting from the 14th onward. On the 14th is when we recorded our episode on 9, which you can go listen to.
The yawn was unrelated. It was a good episode.
Then what did you watch, Remy?
On the 15th, I watched for the very first time another Roger Corman film for me.
Roger Corman.
I was a big fan of The Haunted Palace, not so much of Bucket of Blood. I wanted to check out more of his films, though. And I watched Creature from the Haunted Sea, which is obviously very low budget and kind of very boring. So I don't know. It wasn't great. I wish I had more spy and sea monster shenanigans. I gave it a 2 out of 5.
Then later that night, we watched Lake of the Dead.
Indeed, we did.
That is a 50s Swedish horror movie.
Shout out to Swedish films.
Swedish films are amazing.
Every Swedish film I've seen so far has rocked.
Which I wasn't the biggest fan of this. There were some things I didn't like. Mainly that I felt it was just kind of boring for a lot of the runtime.
That's fair.
But the performances are really great. It looks great. It's fun. It was just a fun movie.
It's got really good cinematography, I will say.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the performances.
The spooky sequences were really good.
I was about to say all of the spooky stuff was really well handled, and I don't know, it's got a very memorable premise and it delivers on it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, so I gave it a 3.5.
I gave it a 4 out of 5. Good stuff.
Then what did you watch? Oh wait, what did we watch?
What did we watch, Micah?
We watched Charlie Kaufman.
We watched Charlie Kaufman.
Baby's first Charlie Kaufman.
Oh yeah, that's my first Kaufman movie.
I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
There you go.
Which I was very, very much looking forward to. I'd been wanting to turn it on for a long time.
I'm a big Jesse Plemons guy. So
Rob is a big Jesse Plemons guy.
I was very much looking forward to this.
And I honestly like this is honestly my kind of filmmaking.
No, if I would have seen this movie before you, I would have been like, all right, we got to watch this with Micah now because I'm sure he's gonna love this.
But I really, really loved it. I couldn't imagine changing like a single thing about it. I think. And I know you didn't think so.
Yeah, I was about to say I disagree with that.
But I thought like every moment of it worked really well. I thought even the beginning and even the home stuff, I thought that worked really well for what they were going for.
Okay.
Emotionally, I thought it worked extremely well.
Yes.
Yeah. its creativity in filmmaking is just like on another level.
That's what I really wanted to praise about it. It takes a lot of really big stylistic swings and narrative swings,
especially by the end.
Most of them seem very intentional and hit very well. So that is definitely something I admire.
Like the fact that we have like the pig thing in this movie is insane,
dude.
Like the fact that
that's one of my favorite aspects of this movie. It's
like
so good.
the Broadway performance too. Like there are just so many like really, really genuinely like crazy things that you wouldn't expect
feels
to
so
happen
original.
in this movie.
I love it.
And I think it so much plays into a lot of like the dread and like, I don't know, really cool stuff that this movie is doing.
No, I really like Patrick H. Willems' review of this, because he said it, let's see, I want to get it verbatim. He said, "Love to be trapped in a waking nightmare for 2+ hours."
Which, I mean, honestly, is the best way to describe how it comes
feels
off.
like it feels like you're having a nightmare, which
with its like
great.
consistent inconsistency of how reality works.
Yeah,
and like so many of its off-putting elements. I don't know. It's amazing.
It's very, very good. I mentioned, Micah said I disagreed with how great like all of it is, but I really just had a problem with how some of the stuff near the beginning.
Yeah, I was saying you disagree
handled.
With the fact that you wouldn't change anything.
I just think the editing could have been a bit better. I think they could have handled some of the narrative points a bit better in the house, but that's pretty much it. I love it. Outside of that, I think it works really well.
Fantastic movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
I give it a 5 out of 5, if you can even believe it.
Who would have thought it? And then the next day, the 17th, I watched Prisoners of the Ghostland for the very first time. My first Sion Sono movie.
Nikolai.
I don't know. Do you know who he is?
No.
He's the guy who did like Love Exposure and Anti-Porno, the like very well-known Japanese director. Did not enjoy this at all. Like, I was really hoping that I would. I'm a big Nick Cage guy. And like a Japanese Western movie sounds really cool. Like there's cowboys and samurai in this, Micah. It sounds like a cool premise. It even has like cool.
That does sound cool.
It even has cool imagery and stuff behind it. It just really did not work for me. Like it's kind of like the feeling I got when I was watching Monster Hunter, the newer movie that they did. Very just.
That's pretty harsh criticism.
I don't feel
Monster
as
Hunter is like incohesive.
Yeah, I was about to say it's not as bad as Monster Hunter, but it's that similar feeling where I'm like, this should be cool. Why isn't this cool? It's just, it feels very poorly constructed. It feels very poorly edited and just not well directed, which is so odd from a director who's this well known.
Yeah.
But Nick Cage is fine in it. He seems, again, it just seems like he's in a different movie than everyone else. None of the performances really mesh the way I want them to. I kind of mentioned in my review that it kind of feels like a live action adaptation of an anime, but the anime doesn't exist. If that makes any sense. For those who have seen like, what am I thinking? I'm thinking of like Full Metal Alchemist and like the Bleach adaptation that Netflix did.
They're so bad.
Yeah, they're really bad. It's kind of like that. But with Nick Cage, so it's a little better. I gave it a 2 out of 5. Not my cup of tea for sure.
Then on the 17th, we watched a movie I had never heard of.
Neither had I.
which is weird. But we watched Experimenter.
Yes.
2015. And the reason I say that's weird
biopic
is by like 2015 biopic that are rated PG-13 standards, you'd think we would have heard of it.
Right? Yeah. No, it has Peter Sarsgaard. I'm thinking of someone else.
Peter Sarsgaard.
Yes.
Winona Ryder.
I don't know. Anytime I see Winona Ryder in a movie like after the 2000s, I'm like, what is she still doing that?
Hello, what's going on?
I don't know. She's got a weird energy for 2010s movies. Maybe it's just me.
It's too much. You literally just have her associated with Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands.
She's so good in those. Like, I don't know. Like, even in Stranger Things,
Age of Innocence though too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, she's been really good in like all of her older roles, and I don't think she's like bad in new roles. She's just, I don't know, she feels out of place.
Yeah, all of her big roles, besides like, I guess, I don't know, her most popular movie marked on here is Black Swan. I didn't even know she was in it.
Yeah, I didn't know she was in it.
But all of like her big roles are from the 90s.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she was a big 90s star, so. But anyway, Experimenter, very cool biopic, takes a lot of really cool stylistic directions. I like it a lot.
Yeah, like I was not
interesting.
expecting this thing to be like as interesting as cinematically as it was.
Yeah.
I didn't fully connect with like the story and everything. I thought it got kind of boring.
Boo.
Like I think the topic that they're talking about is far more interesting than they let the movie explore.
That's interesting, because I was really satisfied with how much they explored it.
Well, I feel like they spent way too much time being like, wow, look at all these people being wrong about their opinions on this guy's work, instead of like showing you anything. Like 90%.
That's a fair criticism.
90% of the middle of the movie is like, this was inhumane, even though they kind of convince you in the very beginning of the movie that it is in fact not inhumane. I don't know, maybe you're torn up about it. Maybe the viewer is supposed to not know what to think, but I was like, yeah, I think that's a good study. I think that's important for humanity. And they're like, oh, only like 1% of people complained about it, but now it's become a big thing. So like you spend 90% of your time having this guy's career being like torn up without anything like happening. Like, you have no personal investment.
For sure. I know that's honestly my only complaint about this movie is a lot of the middle plot stuff that they try and do.
But again, the performances
still
are
very
really good,
cool.
and like what they're trying to do with it cinematically is just really, really cool.
I would want to make something like this someday. It's a good movie.
A 4 out of 5.
I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Very charming movie. I like it.
on the 19th, we watched The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Heck yeah, we did.
1974. We watched it, technically speaking, we started it on the 18th because August 18th is the day that the movie takes place.
Nice.
So we were like, oh, we gotta watch it. And we had never seen it before, and G. Willikers.
G. Willikers.
It was fantastic.
Right?
Like, dang. I was very excited about it because everything I had seen about it looked great. And it lived up to that, like, in every way.
Yeah,
one of the best horror movies I think I've ever seen.
It's a Resident Evil movie.
It honestly, it really is. I mean, I know Resident Evil Biohazard took inspiration from this movie,
pretty blatantly. But yeah, no, it's got such a great mastery of tone and setting and character. It's a really good movie. Like, if you've never seen it before and you're old enough to watch it, definitely recommend it. It's
still really funny that the director wanted it to be PG.
That sentiment is so funny to me. He's like, I'm gonna make a movie called Texas Chainsaw Massacre and it's gonna be PG.
And not only that, but it was remarked as like the most disturbing movie to come out at the time.
It's extremely disturbing. Like, if I saw this as a child, I would be so deeply upset. Like I would not recover.
All right,
but very good.
I give it a 5 out of 5.
I also give it a 5 out of 5.
Then on the 19th, we watched Greyhound.
Right,
this was a rewatch for Robbie. He was showing it to our grandparents.
Yes.
I was working while I had watched it.
I was about to say, is a pretty great, in my eyes anyway, Navy movie. Grandpa was in the Navy.
Yeah, exactly.
I figured they would enjoy it.
He was on a very, very similar ship to what one of these was.
Right. And both my grandparents like Tom Hanks, so I was like, it's the perfect pick for them, and they enjoyed it. So yeah.
I was not super engaged, but I was doing other things. So like, what can I say?
No, it can definitely get a little dry for sure.
Like, it does one thing, and if you don't get into that one thing, I don't think it works.
But especially well. As like a procedural kind of movie, because that's what I view it as. Really, it focuses on like the mechanics of a ship and everything like that. And that's really its biggest draw, and I think it does that pretty well. I think it's great.
I don't know. I think my biggest complaint was it never feels, I guess, like grandiose enough for like the story it's trying to tell. Like a captain of a fleet who ended up like standing for so and so hours or whatever. Like, you know, he led them through like Dunkirk style, but like with none of the flair of Dunkirk.
I would disagree with that. I think a lot of the ship sequences have a lot of class and like,
I don't know, I never felt any drama or grandioseness from it, which I think a movie like this needs.
Yeah, I guess you need to pay closer attention, like I so you can see it.
But yeah, again, my opinions aren't super. I didn't watch it fully. I gave it a 3.5.
I gave it a 4.
Then on the 20th, I watched the SpongeBob SquarePants movie.
Great movie.
Great movie.
How have we not done an episode on it yet?
It was my 11th viewing. 4.5 out of 5.
Right.
Then I also finished Pan's Labyrinth. I had started it on a previous day, and then our grandparents got there, so I stopped it. And I finished it. It's one of my favorite movies. 5 out of 5. Amazing.
Shout out to Del Toro.
Beautiful. Perfect. Wouldn't change a thing. Then also on the 20th, we watched Killer's Kiss.
Killer's Kiss.
Stanley Kubrick.
Baby. Who doesn't love Mr. Kubrick?
Very, very, very bare bones, simple plot. And it also looks freaking amazing.
Oh my goodness, man.
Like, outstandingly amazing.
Gushing about Stanley Kubrick's handheld shots in this, man.
I don't know why it looks so good, but it does.
Like I was saying, Micah, he was a photographer for quite a while before he started directing features, you know?
So I think it makes for I know this was very early on in his career, but I think it makes for a very interesting watch in watching through his career as something that's like, I don't know, the story really isn't the highlight here.
No, not at all. But like technically
it is very, very, very good.
It's so good.
And the fact that it's got a very short runtime helps.
I was about to say, its story is, I would honestly say, one of its weaker aspects, but I think it's
probably its weakest aspect. But like, it's still not bad.
It's still kind of good for what it's wanting to do. Like, I don't know. It's a weak story, but it like the movie kind of fits with that. In my eyes.
I gave it a 4 out of 5.
I gave it a 4.5. I'm still a big Kubrick guy.
Then on the 21st, I watched Cinnamon the Movie, which I think is not the title.
Cinnamon
because it is not Cinnamon the Movie. His name is Cinema Roll, and even then, I don't know why it would be Cinnamon the Movie.
Who knows, Micah?
But you know, it's translated from Japanese, so who knows? But I've been a huge fan of Fluffy Cinema Roll since I was a wee lad.
Who hasn't?
We're I guess some of the few people who like grew up reading the manga for some reason. It was at our library and we just read it all.
Right.
And I loved it. It's my favorite like Sanrio adjacent thing.
Oh yeah.
And I
found out
that there was a movie, and I found out that it was on YouTube. So, you know, my girlfriend also really likes Sanrio stuff, so I was like, dude, we gotta watch this. It's very short. And I actually ended up like really liking it. It's got really fun animation, a cute story. It mostly fits in the vibe of the manga. My biggest complaint of the entire movie actually is that it never really does anything with the character of Cinema Roll.
Oh.
Like, it has his same introduction
He's such a fun character
as
to
the
explore.
comics of him, like as the manga of him like falling out of the sky and like, Anna finding her and everything and taking her to the cafe. But then from like that moment on to like the fact that that's what kicks off the plot, and to like the very fact that he can fly at the very, very end.
Oh, he doesn't get to fly around?
No.
Sad.
But like outside of those two things, it didn't have to be him at all, and they just never really explore his character, because instead, like the manga where it's mostly just the pups hanging out and like getting their dynamics, this is like a very Anna-centric plot. Which again, the manga, she's hardly in it.
Yeah, I was about to say,
like she's the only human character that appears, and she's
usually in
it.
like 15 panels in the whole book usually.
But this entire plot centers around them all going and saving her, so it doesn't really have any time to explore any of their dynamics with how short it is.
Fair.
So that made me a little sad, but it was still really fun and really cute.
I need Cinema Roll the animated series.
Well, he's in Hello Kitty and Friends quite a bit.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure.
But I want the cafe, Mike.
Right,
I need the pups
cafe.
shenanigans.
I love the manga so much. I gave it a 4 out of 5, though. I still thought it was really cute. Then on the 21st, we watched Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Rodrick Rules, which we just spent a long time talking about.
Great movie.
And then on the 22nd...
Isn't that today?
That is today.
That's today.
I watched a Goofy movie.
How'd you do it, Micah?
That's crazy. I watched it late into the night. And
movie.
I love a Goofy movie. I think it's one of the best movies Disney has ever put out. I think it's a pretty darn perfect father-son comedy.
I don't understand how they made Goofy into a well-written character for a drama.
Right. Or like how Max isn't annoying to watch.
Or why it's a good musical.
None of the elements make sense, but they all work perfectly. Wouldn't change a thing. And it is one of the most like surprisingly emotionally sincere, funny, sweet movies I've seen from from anything. I give it a 5 out of 5.
Heck yeah.
And that's
what we watched.
is what we watched.
Yeah. That's some good stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Go watch Killer's Kiss. It's on Tubi right now for free.
Killer's Kiss.
Go watch Rodrick Rules.
Go watch
too.
a Goofy movie. Go watch Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Go watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
Go watch I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
That is a good movie.
All of those latter 3 if you're old enough.
Yeah, I was about to say maybe wait till you're a little older for I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
but hop on a Goofy movie train.
Yeah.
You're never too young for a Goofy movie.
Exactly. But anyway, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.
Bye.
Bye.